This is Adam Watson.
Robert Diaz.
You're listening to the Darkslinger Mafia podcast. We have is a very special guest on tonight, Brennan Risling, the owner of Draw Me In Comics, a digital comics platform. How is it going tonight?
It's going well, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your company.
So I'm a co-founder of Draw Me In Comics, and we are a website where independent comic creators can sell their comics, they can promote themselves, create a new fan base, but it's also a place where people can communicate and collaborate as well. So besides artists, writers can also put up scripts or pitch ideas for scripts, and if you sign up as a creator, if you find a comic that you like or a writer that you like, you can actually click on a button that says, I would like to work with you, and you can actually talk back and forth on our site to create even more exciting, cool comics.
Okay, nice. So it's got a collaborative angle going with it as well.
Yes, yeah, very much so. That was definitely part of our idea when we came up with this website. Yeah.
Are you creators yourself?
Yes, we are, and that's how this whole thing came to be. So I play with a group here in Saskatoon called Ultimate Power Duo, and we did a 20-track concept record that came with a graphic novel. So each song on the record has its own 2 to 5 page story that goes with it. And we had 12 artists doing the 20 songs for us, like this really cool big jam, collaborative idea. Some artists wanted scripts, some just went for it, some took the lyrics and just made it their own. But when we had this idea to make this comic, we're like, great, how do we find artists? And that was actually the first big hurdle we had. Where do we find people to do this? You know, we had some friends from Saskatoon that were artists, so we could tap them. But we're like, where do we find more people? And so it was through the process of actually making our own comic and record that this idea came to be. Like, why can't we have a place where we can collaborate and connect and promote ourselves, much like a music independent band would or something, but just in a comic related venue.
Okay. So where did you ultimately find your artists?
We actually went to the Joe Shuster Awards page, and who won awards the last couple of years, and just started emailing people, just like cold calling. You know, we like your stuff. Would you be interested in working with us? And that's how it started. And when we talked about this idea, that was the one thing. Like, I'm a writer. I'm not an artist. I'm a writer.
Right.
And, you know, it's if you go to a Comic-Con and you see an artist sitting at their table and they're sketching, it's kind of romantic. You know, you get to watch them work. As a writer, you can watch me type, but it's not that exciting. You
right.
know? So it's a little bit more difficult to sort of show your work. And, like, no one really wants to read your script. I mean, other writers do, but, you know, the casual fan doesn't.
I'm just going to stop you there for a second. When people are at a Comic-Con, don't come up to me thinking that I want to read your script. I'm a writer. I do not want to read anyone's script. So, go on.
Well, exactly, right? You know, we can't help it. You know, we like words. It just doesn't look as cool, you know.
Right.
You know, but yeah, we just started emailing people, and it was just, you know, there must be a better way of doing this. So, and that's part of how this whole thing came to be.
So, is it the people post ads up there? Is it more of like a message board sort of thing? Like with digitalwebbing.com, DeviantArt, Facebook, there are a few groups that all kind of work message board style, where somebody posts something up and say, you know, how much they're offering, if they're offering pay, if they're not, you know, what sort of rights are split up, that sort of thing. And just a paragraph or two about what they do. And then since they're message board style, people can comment, go back and forth on it. Is it that sort of thing, or is it more like through direct messaging? How does it work?
Yeah, it would be direct messaging. So right now, it's set up that you, again, post your comic, you can sell it, and then you can talk directly to the artist if you like their work. So right now, it's more of a direct messaging type scenario.
Okay. Are you thinking about expanding that more in the future? I think if you advertise that angle a little bit more, you'd probably get a lot of traffic that just want to use that. who don't have a comic to sell yet.
Right, and that is something that we're looking at going into doing commissions or maybe having a gallery page or something. Like right now, off the hop, we just wanted people that have a comic because they've actually done it. You know, like they have something, they put the sweat equity into it, they have something to show, and so that's what we're starting with. But through talking with other people as well, you know, we've had some other suggestions as far as posting things or having like page rates and stuff. So we're going to see how that'll look in the future. I just really wanted to have a place that professional artists could show off their wares. You know, like going to Comic Cons, that's always a question I would hear a lot at panels is, I'm a writer. How do I find an artist? I'm an artist. How do I find a writer? And, you know, DeviantArt was mentioned in like other social media websites, but you know, there's also fan art and there's lots of things on there. So we wanted to make it more specialized for people that, you know, love comics and are making their own and really want to try and make a go of it.
Okay. So now in terms of selling things on there, you know, as a publisher, I looked into it a bit. I haven't had a chance to go through everything yet, but you advertised that I, as a publisher, would keep all of the money that I make off it. Can you go into a little bit of how that works?
Yeah, I sure can. So what we do, we have our own token packages. We call them super coins. So It's much like if you're playing Candy Crush or Injustice 2, because that's the one game I play on my phone is Injustice 2. And it's really good. I like it. And so you buy gems or SIM cards or things that you use in the game, so you can upgrade your powers or whatever. And it's the same thing with your site. So we take a small percentage off the sale of the coin packages, so that when you go to buy the comic, if let's say you want to sell your comic for 199 super coins, which is basically translate to a penny a coin kind of thing.
Okay.
Then when they click on the button that says, yes, I'd like to buy it, then you get to recoup all those coins because we took a small percentage off the front end.
Okay. And what can they do with those coins? Can they cash it out for money?
The artists can, yes.
Okay.
So when they right now I have it set up that once you hit a certain amount of coins, then you can cash it out and get real life cash money. For now, and I'm excited for this. When we have people starting to cash out, we'll actually probably write you a physical check and send it to you in the mail, which I think is really neat. Eventually, it will be automated, but you'll get an actual check. Maybe I'll leave a little note in it or something with it to go along. Just to make it more personal.
So, what was the deciding factor in making it completely free?
For signing up on the website?
For selling your wares. So, if I, as a publisher, were to sell, Ghost Assassin or Chronicles of Von Helsing through your site, and you don't get any percentage of it, basically, what's the impetus for you not taking a percentage of it is what I'm asking.
Oh, we just wanted to find a way to really support the independent creators,
Okay.
As someone who has come up through the ranks of the independent music scene, and now doing independent comics, you make your CD, you make a comic, and then you put it somewhere, and then everyone you sell, they take an extra 15, 20, 30%, depending what their commission rate is,
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just if there's people that need to try to make as much as they can from their products, it's the independent creators, we should try to help them keep as much money in their pocket as we possibly can. So that's why we went with this setup. So, that way the consumer can, feel good because they're supporting these artists and knowing that all the money is going directly to them.
Mm-hmm. How do you make money off it, though?
Oh, again, we make the money from the front end off the sales of our Supercoin packages.
Okay, I understand now. So there's a transactional fee for buying the coins, but then once the coins have purchased the comics, okay, that makes total sense now.
Right. sorry if I wasn't clear about that, but yeah, it's not a dollar by dollar. It's a little bit more. And again, the more coins you buy, then the better the deal is. But yeah, that's how we make our money to keep the website going.
Okay.
And our artists still get to keep what they make.
That makes total sense. I completely understand now. So it's basically like you're buying a premium currency, then they use the currency. Okay, that makes sense. So,
right. Yeah, exactly.
How are you defining yourself as different than, say, like Drive-Thru Comics, Comixology, or any of the other sites that sell digital comics?
Well, the big one is that we're focusing on independent creators and small batch companies and that type of thing, as well as the fact that as a writer, I can put my script up there, or at least an idea for a script, and it's the collaborative nature of the website as well. So we're kind of hitting a few different markets at the same time as far as making this online comic community that you can also sell your comics on as well. So I think that's the big thing that sets us apart.
Okay. So what ways can somebody use your site to help market their books?
Well, if you're someone that is hoping to sell their comics, but you don't have, a website, or you're not sure how to make a website, we've done that for you, right? So you can have your own creators page. So essentially, it's like you have your own store on our website. So then from there, it's a matter of telling everyone that you possibly know to come check it out and buy your comics. So and we're hoping that once we start establishing some more collaborations and get more of the community going, that we might even start doing our own maybe Draw Me In Comics monthly series, where we can have creators do 4 pages of a jam story or something, and even start releasing their own comics, just to help get people's names out there.
Okay, so you're thinking about doing it like an anthology series? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, yeah. I think that'd be really neat, because that way we could, highlight certain creators that are on our website, give them a chance to show up what they do. They'll have comics on there already, but just one more way to show what they can do. And then, I'm not going to lie, as a writer, it's good for me to have some deadlines.
Right.
It's good for me to have a schedule to make sure that I keep writing too. So, maybe I'll make sure that I put my scripts in there and, make some collaborative comics.
So you and Adam both know the business side of this. I'm new to all this. So do these other sites that host the web comics for people to buy, they're taking percentages from the artist's sales themselves and keeping it?
There's multiple venues now at this point for selling your digital wares. Most of them take a percentage off, so it'd be like a 70-30 cut for Drive-Thru Comics. The publisher or the artist, or whoever owns the IP there and the right to sell the product gets 70%. Drive-Thru Comics gets 30%. There's a few others. Comic House, I believe, is still on a subscription basis, so it works more like Netflix, where you pay $9.99 a month to have a subscription. And then the way they break up those funds is a little bit more confusing, because it aggregates it based off of how many people have read your book. Whereas like Netflix pays a flat fee to have the movies up there for X amount of time. There's no digital comic company that's doing exactly like the Netflix model, but Comic House is pretty close, and Comixology actually offers it both ways. So you can have it to where somebody downloads it, you get a percentage of the sale, or they can do it through a subscription model where somebody has Comixology Unlimited, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, that's what this is called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so
we're
standardly.
doing a subscription.
What's that?
Sorry, go ahead. Oh, we're actually looking at doing a subscription model with us as well.
Okay.
How that will look, we haven't quite decided yet, but that's also something that we're looking into. So, stay tuned for more exciting things coming your way from Draw Me In Comics.
And how long have you guys been doing this for?
This is about our second month right now, so we're brand new.
Oh, really new. Okay. All right, and
Yeah,
what sort of feedback have you been getting so far?
We've been getting excellent feedback. It's been great, actually. So we just received we got our first YouTube review that someone actually went to the site and talked a bit about it, and he said how it's easy to use and he liked the platform. He commented that he can't afford a website, so this gives him a place to go. And he made the comment that this is the kind of site that we need more of these in the independent comic world. So it was really great. Yeah, well, the feedback has been really good. A lot of great comments. A lot of people from the UK are commenting on our website. So I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it did. So that's great.
Huh. Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, getting a bit of an international market. But yeah, no, the feedback has been really good. We launched at the Saskatchewan Comic Expo here, and that was the end of August, beginning of September, off the top of my head. And that's when we launched the website. So we hosted a panel talking about the site and just promoting yourself and digital comic sales and that type of thing. And that was our official launch. And so, yeah, we're brand spanking new. We're just getting it out there and kind of hit the floor running and seeing what we can do for our comic friends.
So, on the topic of Comic-Cons, are you offering physical editions of your books as well, or are you only doing them digital through the site?
Right now, it's digital through the site.
Okay.
But, again, that's something else we've been talking about, doing whether it's going to be print on demand, that type of thing. So that is an avenue that we'll, again, look at later on down the road. But right now, we're just focusing on the digital sales and making it like just a really good promotion for people to sell their comics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it is interesting mentioning the words promotion. I've largely used digital comics as a way to promote my physical comics, physically printed comics. Throughout my career, I've offered digital editions since 2007. And that's actually the best use I've found for them, is using them as a promotional tool that you can recoup a small amount of money off of here and there,
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's what I'm hoping. Like, I'm a print comic guy. I still have my file, and I have a stack of comics I'm looking at right now. I should probably sit down and read after we're done talking here. But if it's an artist that I like, if I buy your digital work and I really like it, I'll actually probably seek out your physical copy as well.
Uh-huh.
So I think, and I'm hoping a lot of people that would come to our site would be of the same mindset, right? Where we're collectors and we're, the completists. We're the ones that, want to fill our collections with the stuff that we love, So, I'm hoping for, like, a lot of the artists that have the books that are just going up on the site, I'm sure also have physical copies of them as well, right? So I think it's a really smart idea to use the digital comics to promote your physical ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's worked out really well for me for the most part. I've been on Drive-Thru Comics since its inception. I've seen a lot of digital platforms kind of come and go, which honestly has made me leery to signing up with new platforms over the last couple of years, because like Graphically went out of business owing me about $35, I think it was, which, is not a ton of money, but it was still just kind of the element of, oh, you sold all those copies of my books, now you're gone, you know what I mean?
Right, exactly, yeah.
And then, let's see, there was PopCap Comics for a while. There's been a lot of companies that have tried this, and I want to see more companies succeed at it. After you've partnered with a few, though, you do kind of get a little jaded to it, I think, because it kind of seems like Drive-Thru Comics and Comixology, those are the two that stick around. But
right.
It does sound like you're trying to do some things to differentiate yourself a bit, though. I like the whole community building aspect and the aspect that you can find other creatives to work with on this platform. Are you going to be releasing an app for the site at some point?
Looking at that as well, yep. It's as though you were at our last meeting and you're checking off all our future endeavors. So, we're looking into all possibilities. But like I said, we are so new, so we're just focusing on, making the first thing strong and going from there. But that's definitely something we'll be looking into. So.
That's actually a very good thing you just said, because it seems like a lot of the problems a lot of the other sites that I mentioned had is that they try to do too much all at once. Like,
exactly. Well, it's funny if you think like Netflix, who now has all the money in the world, started as a company that would send you DVDs in the mail to rent.
right.
That was how they started. That was their first, platform, and then eventually it turned into what Netflix is now. So we're very much using that as focus on what we're doing now and do it really well first before we start, getting too ambitious for us. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we're even part of right now we're part of a tech startup company group here in Saskatchewan. So it's a group called Co-Launch through CoLab at the University of Saskatchewan here. And we were one of 12 Saskatchewan tech companies that were chosen for this intensive seminar program. And because of that, we've met some really great people that know a lot of tech companies and marketing. And so that's really helped to get us organized too, as far as, step one, do that really well first before we get to step 485 or whatever it is. So,
Right.
Yeah, no, it's been going really well, and like I said, we're just trying to spread the love of comics as much as we can.
And that's a great mission to have right there. So
I think so. That's
this might be too big of a question right now, but it's not a question you get to ask people often for things like this. When you start out small and you want to keep to being with smaller independent people, but what if it snowballs to a huge thing, and big companies see that they recoup all their money back? What if they want to come to you?
Because their impetus is on helping?
Because they're trying. They see that they get to keep all of their money as opposed to splitting it with
So
you.
basically, what Robert's asking is, you want to be independently focused and driven, but what if like Marvel or DC, IDW, any of those companies come to you? Would you work with them?
We've had this conversation as well. It's hard to say. I mean, if Amazon showed up with a truck full of money, I guess we could talk, see how it goes. But philosophically, I like the idea of keeping it independent. If it was one of those things where a big corporation buys you out, but they keep it as an independent company, like for independent artists, I would find that more interesting. Like Marvel and DC, they don't have any problems promoting themselves.
Right.
They don't need the extra help. Even like Comixology and things. And I mean, it's just you click there and right away there's the Hulk or there's Superman or there's whatever.
Right.
And it's easy to get lost if you're the small person on the. And I don't mean professionally less known. I don't mean you know what I mean.
I know what
You're
you
still important. Change my wording there. But I guess if Amazon bought us out, we'd have to talk with it then. It's one of those things as a philosophical mind puzzle right now that I'll have to think about. But with the caveat again, if they kept it independent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then we'll just take more of their money. So whatever.
So basically, you're just saying you'll keep your options open.
Exactly. I'm non-committal at this time.
Right.
Yeah, it's not an easy question to answer.
It's not, but I've answered it a few times now, right?
Yeah. Who knows?
So this works for people getting their comics out there, and does it also help? Would there be something for like you being a writer, or something for writers to post out to me like, this is my kind of thing, this is what I'm writing, I'm looking for someone to help me with this? Do you guys help connect people in that way? Like they're looking for someone to draw for you.
So you're not just talking about the ability to direct message somebody, but them actually playing like a matchmaker between the creators? Is that what you mean?
Well, I mean, someone can put up their people that already have things made. They put up their work, and whether or not they were collaborating. It's there for people to see. Is there a way for someone to put up their art on it, or someone to put up their writing on it? Maybe not to sell, but to like post up there. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking differently than how things work.
Like just to show what they do and that type of thing.
Yeah, sort of like to put yourself out there. Be like, I wanna make something and I want to put it on this site. Who here can help me do this?
Right. Well, like I said, with writers can post their scripts or pitches for scripts. So if I go to the script page and I read the script and I like it, then like I said, we can directly message that person. We have talked about doing more of a platform, whether it's like a gallery page or something along those lines. But right now, we're just focusing more on just finding someone and talking to them directly. There are other places where people can sort of post, I'm looking for this, like a want ads kind of thing.
Right.
And who knows? That might be something that we end up turning into or adding later on. But right now, we're just focusing more with, you can see their comics, you can see their scripts. If you want to work with them, send them a message and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
So tell us a little bit about the comics you've created.
So the big one that I mentioned before was the concept record that I did with my band, Ultimate Power Duo.
Uh-huh.
So the comic is called Ultimate Power Duo Presents the Adventures of Space Joe Ad Astra. And so that's been my big project where for each song got its own story. And depending on the artist, I did some panel, like I would write a script, page 1, panel 1. Some people, I gave them notes on what the characters look like and the setting and kind of the universe building and let them run with it. We're doing a second one, which is almost written. I think I only have one story left to complete. For the next comic that we're doing, it's going to be called Duophenia, Space Joe 2. If you're a Who fan, one of their best albums was called Quadrophenia. So we're going to be Duophenia. And I know a lot of Who fans might not think Quadrophenia is one of their best albums, but I think it is. I think it's really good. So that's down the pipe right now. Like I said, all the scripts are done except for one. We're having Donnie Sparrow. He's an artist here from Saskatoon. He did some of our work in our last comic, and so he'll be doing all the work for this next one. So the next comic, each story is going to be a side character that you met in the last Space Joe comic, but now they're going to have their own highlighted story. So it's a combination of some origin stories. It might be like a day in the life of type of story. Just showing the other characters that are in this universe that I'm helping create. So that's the next one. That'll be hopefully out next year between finishing the record and getting the comic out. So those are the big two. And then I actually have scripts I'm working on right now to do some other collaborations in the meantime. But yeah, so right now Space Joe is my comic world at the moment.
All right, sounds good.
So since you guys are fairly new, who is most of your stuff coming from around you locally? Is that what you're seeing? Most of the stuff that you have on your site so far?
Surprisingly not. No. I originally I thought it would be a lot of the local creators. Oh yeah, sure, I'll put my comic up there. And it hasn't. It's just been other people that have heard about it. We've been messaging, so Scott RP, that I'm sure you had spoken with, that arranged this interview.
Yes.
He's been going out there. Yeah, he's been going out there and contacting people and saying, check out our site and see what we can do for you. And just from that, people have been putting their comics up. But surprisingly enough, our local artists haven't posted as much as I thought. So it just means I'll have to maybe drive to their house, knock on the door. Pardon me. Please put your comic up, there's a Saskatoon store here called Amazing Stories, and between I was talking to Jody, one of the owners, about how cool it would be to have like a comic book club or a comic writing club or something. And so once a month, we now meet Amazing Stories, writers and artists, and we collaborate in person and that type of thing. So I will see them in person and I will bug them, But I think it would also be kind of cool if maybe that might be a venue that, the Amazing Stories comic book writing club could maybe create your own comic and then post on Draw Me In Comics. So I'm definitely going to make sure we get more of our local artists representing on our site for sure.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It seems like the number one question you get asked when you do conventions is, are you local? So
yeah, fair enough. So I'm excited for this next coming year. I want to make sure I try to hit some more Comic Cons, obviously, and meet more writers in person and let them know that we're out there and that we're doing this. So even when we first launched our site a couple months ago, it was at the Sask Expo, and I just hit every artist table that I could and just said, check us out, we're launching today, kind of thing. So hoping to do a lot more of that in the next year or two here.
You have any conventions coming up that you're going to be tabling at?
I haven't decided. The Calgary Comic Con, the Calgary Expo, is the big one here in Western Canada. I'm definitely going to go to that one. But instead of getting a table, I think I'm just going to, boots to the ground and go to the artist and talk to myself and kind of be a bit more free floating, just so I can maximize the amount of people I get to talk to.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, because the artists, they have to stay and work, right? So I'm going to go to them and float around. So
yeah,
or possibly, depending how many people I can rope in to go with me, have a table and then be able to leave and have someone wash the table for me. But I think for the first little bit, I just like the idea of like I said, just boots to the ground, be free floating, get to talk to as many people as I can. I'd also like to do some more panels. I've done a few panels before, so that'd be kind of a good way to talk about our company and our business and all the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah, panels are a great way to do it. I would recommend going beyond Comic Cons too. I don't know what the convention scene is like in your area, but if you guys have any library conventions for local authors' days, horror conventions, anything like that, you'll be amazed at the amount of comic creators you find at those kind of things as well.
Oh, sure enough. Yeah, I should definitely look into that. That's a good suggestion. So
we actually have a much bigger fan base outside of comic fandom in general than what we do at the Comic Cons themselves. So, like, our biggest show that we do is actually a horror con called CryptCon in Seattle, Washington. And
cool.
Comics are not the focus of it, but it's our biggest show because in the sea of independent comics, like you were stating earlier, it's so easy to kind of get washed out. So if you go beyond somewhere that might be kind of comic adjacent or comic friendly, you'll have a better reception. So there are a lot of comic creators at these sort of events as well. So it might be a good opportunity for some promotion as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, there you go. Maybe I'll have to come down to Seattle and check that one out sometime.
I highly recommend going to CryptCon if you like horror comic, or if you like horror stuff at all. It's a great show.
I do. Yeah, that's it.
You said you guys are working with the university as well?
Yes.
What kind of thing was that, did you say?
Oh, so it's a tech startup company. What's the one I'm looking for? Oh, losing words here. It's a think tank. So it's where founders of tech companies meet, and we have classes once a week, and just learn how to be a better company. So it's part of the caveat is that it has to be a new company, out of companies that applied, province-wide, we are one of 12 that got chosen to be part of it, which was really, really exciting. But it's interesting when we talk about, comic-friendly or finding a con or something or a convention that is adjacent, For a tech company, that was kind of us, right? Everyone else was doing very scientific or business or, what you'd kind of think of more of a tech company, and then we show up and we're like, we want to sell comics, But I think that was actually to our advantage because we became like the outlier, right? So I think we, right now as a beginning tech company, we sort of stand out a little bit just because we're a little bit different than the rest of the other businesses out there right now.
Being at a university, things like that seem like they would be a great place to go beyond the cons to try to get people in, because there's always plenty of young people that have no money, and you're offering them something that lets them make all their money back without you dipping into their what little funds that they can get, and that's great. And they're always creative. They just don't necessarily know a place to start, or they don't have the money to start anywhere. So I think that seems like it would be a great place to be for you, for more than just getting the feedback from ideas about people.
Oh, for sure, yeah. No, that's a great idea. A lot of university students like comics and they're creative, right? So that'd be a really good place to try to find some more new projects and hopefully more people to put their stuff on our website.
Did you have any other questions?
No, I just think that that's a great idea. The way that you can go out and you see all these people that they're always creative. Like Alan's always he sits in a bar and draws. So you might see someone just sitting there writing or they're drawing their stuff, and you chat them up, and then they're like, "Oh, that's really great. I have all this stuff, but I don't know what to do with it, or I can't afford to publish a whole bunch of these things."
Mm-hmm.
But instead, you're putting it online, and then you're making a little bit of money to be able to go out and do those other things. So it seems like your possibilities are endless to find people to post things on and help them start, and that's really great.
Yeah, it's a really good fit.
Did you have any other questions? Okay, so we got time for one more question, it looks like, time-wise. So this one isn't going to be specific to your company, but just kind of I'm trying to get everyone's thoughts as much as possible. We've been talking a lot lately about pricing of comics. I don't know if you've seen... Do you pay attention at all to the stuff that Marvel and DC puts out?
Yes. They've been coming up with some big, bigger issues that they're pricing for $8 a pop and that type of thing.
Okay, yeah, that's the exact sort of thing we've been talking about. And are you familiar with Alterna Comics at all? Peter Smeddy's company?
Yes.
Okay, so then you know he has the newsprint line for $1.50, really super low price point.
Yeah.
We've just been kind of talking about that a bit. What are your thoughts with the way comics are currently priced, with the way, the market works in terms of pulling in new readers? Do you think that the big companies are overpricing? Do you think there's a price point that's too low?
Okay, where to begin? Here we go. I think personally, even just the pricing of comics now I would think is probably keeping some people away from comics, just because you need to be a lot more selective with what you buy.
Right.
When I was a kid, Marvel was 75 cents, I think, and DC was 95 cents. And even as a kid, that seems pretty reasonable. And now when I go to buy a comic, depending on how well the Canadian dollar and things are doing, the cover price might be $3.99, but after the exchange rate, I'm looking at over $5
right.
an issue. And there's times that, even as a professional adult, I might look at a comic and I have to think, okay, well, do I really want to throw down an extra $5 on something that I've never read before? So Yeah, I think it's keeping people away. You know, and I don't work for DC or Marvel, so I mean,
right.
I don't know what their budget and things are, but I think they're doing pretty well. You know, I think they're making their money back on their investment. So, you know, but even if you think of like how popular Free Comic Book Day is, you know, I think that might be an indication that maybe your comics are a bit too high if Free Comic Book Day is the one that fills doors, because people can maybe find a new comic that won't break the bank, you know?
Right. So on the other side of that, do you think that there is a price point that's too low where you would personally start questioning the quality of it?
That's an interesting question, because as an independent artist, right, I've had this conversation with other people a lot. Like I did an article or something for someone, and as a joke, I said, I asked whatever my fee was. And I mean, but if everyone is undercharging, then you're right, we deflate our own market. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Would a price point be too low? I don't know. I have to really think about that one.
Fair enough.
You know, in this day and age, anything, I mean, how much is gum now? Isn't gum almost like $2?
Yeah.
You know, so I guess if it's less than $1, possibly, but I mean, I would kind of think, you know, like with the alternate comics and things, like I think if it was, you know, between, you know, $1.50 and $2, like I think that'd be pretty fair. If it was less than $1, then I would almost expect it to be not newsprint, but something like that, you know, like make it purpose. You know, obviously it's less than $1 because it's different in some way, rather the way it's published or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it'd be too low. You got me thinking about this. This is going to be... You might get an email from me in a few days where I'll be, you know, I was thinking about that price point question some more. You got my gears. I'm going to think about this for a bit.
Okay, good. That's what I'm trying to get people to do, because you know, as a publisher, I need to do this market research. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for tonight. You had mentioned previously, prior to us starting to record, that you had a promo code for our listeners?
Oh, I sure do, yeah. So if you want to go check out DrawMeInComics.com, we have a promo code that you can use for your Darkslinger Mafia podcast listeners. So it's the promo code is Darkslinger-Mafia. So Darkslinger-Mafia, capital D, capital M. And you can log in, use that code, and get 200 super coins to go check out some independent comics.
All right, sounds fantastic, and I love that promo code. It's a good promo code. So, thought
you would. It would be well for you. So,
so we appreciate you having on the show, and you know, we should try and schedule a couple of months down the road, 2 to 3, having you back on, so we can check in and see how the site's going.
I would love that. Yeah, you know, check us out we're on all the medias. DrawMeInComics.com, Twitter, DrawMeInComics, Facebook, DrawMeInComics. And I'd love to come back and check in and let you know how things are going, and you know, all the great series that will be coming to our website.
All right, sounds great.
And right, and if anyone out there, again, if you want to sign up, put your comics on our site, or if you have an independent small batch company or independent comic, put it up there. All
right, yeah, I'm big for, you know, that you never know how something's going to work until you try it. You should always put your money where your mouth is, sort of thing. So since I've interviewed you tonight, the Darkslinger stuff, I'll have at least 2 titles up by next week. So
that would be great. Well, it's funny because I noticed that it's like anything when it's new, people are always like, "Oh, how's it going to go?" You know, like no one really wants to jump in first, right? So
right.
So we need some brave souls to jump in. So it'd be great if you could put some of your titles up there.
Have you done a Kickstarter or Indiegogo yet on the topic of that?
We haven't, no.
Okay, so one of the most frustrating things about advertising for a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and when I do advertising through postcards and trading cards. For some reason, I really like doing trading card advertising. I think it's just because it was what was really hot when I was a kid, But I'll hand those out at cons and say, go to Kickstarter, you're going to find Ghost Assassin there, yada, yada, kind of basic spiel. And people, without fail, about 70% of them will ask, is it funded yet? And if it's not funded yet, they're not even going to look at it. So it's like they can't jump in unless it's 100% there and people have kind of verified it's good in some way with that. So
exactly. It's like you need to validate your worth to me by knowing that other people like it too.
Right. But all right.
But it happens from somewhere, so there you go.
Exactly. So I'll have some Darkslinger titles up there within a couple of weeks. Check the site out and use that promo code. Thank you once again for being on the podcast tonight.
Good luck with your company.
All right.